No one had a worse weekend than Jim did. And I've told you many times, I've known Jim for 30 years. He was the quarterback of the first NFL team I covered regularly. He was the quarterback of the Bears when I covered them, and I've always liked him. And so perhaps as a consequence of that, I've always been inclined to give him the benefit of the doubt. But at this point, there's no defending what's going on at Michigan. This has become just an unbridled disaster their season. You want some fascinating stats about Michigan, brought to you by DraftKings, America's top-rated daily fantasy app? I'll give you one right here from them and the players, the caliber of players that they get and what it is that they're doing when they get them. Only Alabama, Georgia, and Ohio State have more 4- and 5-star recruits than Michigan the last 5 years, right? So that's the talent that they're bringing in. Only Bama, Georgia, and Ohio State in the country have more top-rated recruits. But here's the stat. Brian Kelly has lost 3 of his last 35 games. Nick Saban has lost 3 of his last 36 games. Dabo Swinney has lost 3 of his last 45 games. And Jim Harbaugh has lost 3 of his last 3 games. He's lost as many games in the last 3 weeks as Dabo Swinney has in 3 years. It just doesn't get worse. He's lost more games in the last 3 weeks than Ohio State has in the last 2 years. Again, that's not a rivalry. A hammer and a nail don't have a rivalry. They have a relationship. And Michigan right now as a program is a lot more akin to a lot of other people than they are to Ohio State. Their only connections to Ohio State are geographic and historical. But there's nothing about that that feels relevant right now. So the question is, where does it go from here? Jim Harbaugh is something of an iconic and legendary figure. He's a larger-than-life figure. But right now he's got major problems. His contract expires at the end of next season. And our Heather Dinich was on TV with me this morning pointing out all the reasons that to give him an extension right now might be impossible. Listen.
You're talking about a coach that has a $7.7 million salary, and it's at a time when the athletic department is in a budget crunch. And then you couple that then with the on-field results and no wins against Ohio State, 3-3 against Michigan State, no appearances in the college football playoff, no Big Ten championships, and you add that up, how do you justify it? It's going to be extremely difficult.
How does she justify what she's talking about is an extension? But you can't be a lame duck coach in college football. You can't recruit anyone if you have 1 year left on your contract in college football. It will destroy them. And it'll destroy the program. No one will go play for him if he has 1 year left on his deal, and everyone knows it. So the question becomes, do you extend the contract, or do you make a decision that Jim Harbaugh is leaving and you go out and try and find someone else? And I've said a million times, if you're Michigan and you've gone to Harbaugh, the legendary alum, the first-round pick, the Schembechler product who had big success at Stanford and big success in the NFL and had a team one play away from winning a Super Bowl, if that doesn't work, where do you go now? You go into one of the big, one of the big group of 5 conference coaches and bringing them in? I guess so. But if this didn't work, what will? This was the slam dunk. This was the move that couldn't fail. And right now, it's feeling precariously close to failing. That was a terrible performance on Saturday night. I switched over from my game to watch that. By the time I turned it on, it was over. In the second quarter, it was 28-0. They were never in the game. At home, not that being at home means what it usually does. The big house is just big right now, but it's empty. But even so, you got to play somebody tough. You got to play them. You got to give them a game. Can't be over in the second quarter. So I'll be very interested to see what they will do then. I mentioned my game. And for that, let me give you a little straight talk brought to you by Straight Talk Wireless. My beloved Northwestern University Wildcats are 4-0 and playing Wisconsin this Saturday in a game that I cannot begin to tell you how nervous I already am for it. The clock hadn't struck 0 in our game Saturday when we beat Purdue and played great. Then I started thinking about this week. Now, all of you who went to these big schools, the teams are always really good. If you went to, Ohio State or Alabama, or whatever it might be, like you're accustomed to this. But I'm not. Or the college that I went to, when I went to Northwestern University, we won 7 games in my 4 years there combined. Northwestern is good, and we never get anywhere near the respect that we deserve. We're 19 in the AP poll right now, and we are way better than that. But that's okay. You have to earn that. When you don't have the history and the tradition, you don't get the benefit of the doubt. You have to earn it. Well, this weekend they can earn it. And I'm not going to sit here on Monday and start talking about a game on Saturday, except to say to you that I'm already so nervous for this game that I can barely function. I woke up in the middle of the night last night. I'm a 53-year-old man with responsibilities and a family. And I woke up in the middle of the night last night thinking about this game against Wisconsin this weekend and being nervous about it. So all of you people who deal with these big, programs where you're constantly playing these monster games, I don't know how you do it, because this means too much to me. Like, I'm never going to be okay here. I'm not going to make it through this week. I'm just warning you. I'm going to be very difficult to deal with this week. And I'm glad that you will be here to help me try and get this thing right. Thank you for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.